The time for silence is over.
Throughout the summer, Democrats cruelly blocked COVID relief legislation.
I wonder if you know that I know he's lying right now.
Meantime, last night the House approved another stimulus package totaling $3 trillion.
We're here talking about Speaker Pelosi's $3 trillion socialist giveaway plan.
The $3 trillion HEROES Act includes aid for local and state governments, the Postal Service, plus another round of stimulus payments and hazard pay for essential workers.
That new aid bill faces an uphill battle in the Senate and here at the White House, where officials have dismissed it as a non-starter and threatened a presidential veto.
Throughout the summer, Democrats cruelly blocked.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying?
The resolution is adopted.
Throughout the summer, Democrats cruelly blocked COVID relief legislation in an effort to advance their extreme left-wing agenda.
Oh my gosh. Stop fucking lying.
The House passed a bill in May, and the Senate went on vacation.
Throughout the summer, Democrats cruelly blocked COVID relief legislation.
I mean, you just don't do that. You negotiate. Senator, it is a national crisis.
Throughout the summer, Democrats cruelly blocked COVID relief legislation.
Always lying to me. You're lying so much.
House is scheduled to vote today on the Democrats' $2.2 trillion coronavirus relief package.
Elon, how much of a further hurdle are Mitch McConnell and the president?
Mitch McConnell seems to be sort of washing his hands of this affair for now.
This Democrat-controlled House has approved this package, but of course the Senate is controlled by the Republicans. They're expected to vote it down.
Throughout the summer, Democrats cruelly blocked COVID relief legislation.
I'ma keep on lying to you. Yeah. Until you think it's the truth.
Yeah. But it may be too little, and it's certainly late. With long lines at food banks across the country and another 885,000 Americans filing for unemployment within just the last week.
You know what I wanna know.
Throughout the summer, Democrats cruelly blocked COVID relief legislation.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying?
Trump was met with mixed reaction in Congress. It was mostly Republicans, not Democrats, who opposed higher stimulus payments.
Throughout the summer, Democrats cruelly blocked COVID relief legislation.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying?
Join me every Sunday afternoon for a new show where common citizens, you and I together, discuss with each other issues of today, where we demand proof and evidence is required, where we seek the truth and will not be silent. Join me this coming Sunday afternoon and take part in America's oldest and most honored tradition. Hello, everybody. Welcome to The Left Speaks and Happy New Year. Today is January the 3rd, 2021, and I guarantee I'm going to mess up the year quite a few times. Quite a bit going on in the political world. I know the election season is over and the election is over, but apparently not everybody has completely comprehended that fact. Unless you're in the state of Georgia, of course, which is in the middle of a special election, a runoff election for the 2 senatorial seats there. We're still dealing with election fraud claims. We still have not seen anything remotely approaching evidence. We'll go through what a couple of my conservative friends sent me this week as their new proof that election fraud occurred. And then, of course, we're still looking at only $600 checks because, surprise, surprise, the Republican Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, blocked it coming to a vote yet again. Somehow this is the fault of Democrats, which blows my mind when it's plain as day, all over the news, anywhere you look, who's opposing this, who's on record voting against it. Sometimes I wish I could still live in the conservative sphere, where the only thing that matters is my opinion, and if the evidence contradicts that, then it's just flat fake. But unfortunately, I can't do that. The one thing I have consistently opposed throughout my political life is any form of totalitarian state, anything where the government tells you everything you do and have to do and what to believe and etc. And the one thing that is consistent across all of those states, whether it is a far left state like Russia under Stalin, or whether it is a far right state like Germany under Hitler, is that evidence doesn't matter, logic doesn't matter, facts don't matter. The only thing that matters is that you have to believe what they are telling you is the new story and the new way things are, which is why I've consistently opposed this administration. If the evidence doesn't back them up, they just keep claiming to have some anyway, and it's coming eventually. We've been hearing this since before the presidential election back in November. It hasn't stopped. I think we're up to about 60 lawsuits now, all of which have been dismissed or shot down for lack of evidence. There's multiple competing theories on what the problem with them not being able to produce evidence is. And the only thing we consistently keep getting over and over and over is somebody else that says, oh, I have evidence of an election fraud, or I found evidence for election fraud. You can't see it yet. You just have to believe me. I wouldn't lie to you. You'll be able to see it in a week. You'll be able to see it in 2 weeks. You'll be able to see it in 10 days. This is no different than the check is in the mail. Somebody telling me that the check is in the mail, if it doesn't show up, is full of shit. I'm tired of dancing around this. You've had months now to produce any evidence of national level, or at least multi-state level, election fraud, large enough to influence a presidential election. And we've come nowhere close to that. Nowhere. Judges on all sides have dismissed this in multiple different states. Judges appointed by Republicans, judges appointed by Democrats, judges even appointed by Trump himself have dismissed this thing. Progressive judges, judges that are members of the Federalist Society, about as far right-wing conservative as you can get in the judicial sphere, have all dismissed this for lack of evidence. Most times, when the attorneys are in their press conferences, they'll sit there and say the words election fraud. When they go in front of the court and their license is on the line, they will not. But don't you worry, the check is in the mail. You'll have your money in a couple of weeks, in 10 days, in 5 days, by January 6th. It doesn't matter. It always seems to be later. Later is when you and I get to see the evidence. Until then, just believe us. Don't worry about the fact that we haven't produced anything yet. Don't worry about the fact that, Mr. Landlord, you don't have your rent. I promise you the check is in the mail. I put it in the mail 2 weeks ago. You should have it any day now. If you were still telling your landlord this since November the 3rd, you would have been evicted already. Produce the rent, produce the evidence, or shut up. This is not that difficult. And now we're down to wacko conspiracy land. As the claims get more and more outrageous and more ridiculous, because the other ones, the somewhat seemingly normal ones, have been debunked. And once that catches traction, once people can't believe that anymore, we've got to come up with something new. We've got to come up with a new story that hasn't been debunked yet, that the facts explaining what's actually going on here aren't everywhere and easily accessible for anybody to see. Regarding January the 6th, protest all you want. You can keep protesting and posting everything online that you want. I certainly do it, and I'm not going to take away your right to free speech. If you want to complain that you get fact-checked, produce some facts. If you want to claim that Facebook and Twitter and whoever isn't letting you share this stuff, produce some evidence. If you want to claim that this is an impingement on your civil liberties, show us that it's based in reality. Again, we've been waiting for months. We've been told for months now that the evidence is only a few days away, and we're still waiting on it. Now, to show that we've been talking about this for months, I'm going to run a slightly older trailer from right after the election for this show. And we still, a month and a half later, have not advanced the case, have not advanced the claim for election fraud any further than it was back on November the 8th. The time for silence is over.
Without any evidence to support it.
There is not a scintilla of evidence that this is true.
I have not seen the proof.
Have we seen proof of voter fraud at this point?
I have not seen the proof.
Have you seen any evidence of fraud occurring in your state?
Without any evidence to support it.
I have not seen the proof.
And the ballots are out of control.
I have not seen the proof.
Only way we're going to lose this election is if the election is rigged. Remember that. Get rid of the ballots. There won't be a transfer, frankly. There'll be a continuation. Remember that. Get rid of the ballots. Remember that. Get rid of the ballots. Remember that. Get rid of the ballots.
Will you commit to making sure that there is a peaceful transferal of power after the election?
Well, we're going to have to see what happens. You know that I've been complaining very strongly about the ballots, and the ballots are a disaster.
There is not a scintilla of evidence that this is true.
I have not seen the proof.
Get rid of the ballots. Get rid of the ballots. Get rid of the ballots. You'll never know who the winner is, but the winner's going to be me.
Do you commit to making sure that there's a peaceful transferal of power?
We want to have get rid of the ballots, and you'll have a very peaceful. There won't be a transfer, frankly. There'll be a continuation. You'll never know who the winner is, but the winner's going to be me. It'll be the greatest rigged election in history. It'll be the greatest fraud ever perpetrated. Get rid of the ballots. Get rid of the ballots. Get rid of the ballots. There won't be a transfer, frankly. There'll be a continuation. Join me every Sunday afternoon. We've been talking about this since November. And just like your landlord asking for the rent since November, there's a very easy way to make this go away. Produce it. That's why this stuff gets thrown out of court. In court, you have to actually produce your evidence. You don't get to go in with
oh, I feel like Jim murdered Sue. If you do, and that somehow even makes it to a freaking courtroom, it gets tossed out. Oh, I just can't imagine that Jim would have died without Sue killing him. That doesn't work either. And if you want to go back to the landlord analogy, hey, that's fine. On November the 8th, I'm sorry, Mr. Landlord, I can't imagine how the check got lost in the mail. I'll make sure to send you another one. That excuse doesn't keep working until January the 3rd. I'm not going to sit here and deny reality and pretend like there's evidence when I've been looking for it for a month and a half. I've been arguing back and forth with conservatives for a month and a half. I read, I watch every single link that they send me. I've gone through countless of them on this show, and there's absolutely nothing. Literally. It's always just another guy says that he's got evidence, but it never comes out. I promise you this time, Mr. Landlord, the check's in the mail. I don't know how they've lost them for 5-6 weeks in a row now at this point. But this time, believe me, this time, I wouldn't lie to you for the 6th week in a row. Come on. You're smarter than this. If your kid went to school for 6 weeks in a row and kept telling his teacher that he really did have his term paper and was ready to turn it in, but the dog ate it, and she could have it again in a couple of days, your kid would have failed by now, weeks ago. This president has failed too. So have all his lawyers. And so have all the Republicans backing him. The last legal challenge just got shot down. They're appealing that one too. Surprise, surprise. I guess we got to go for 70 court cases shot down until some of you guys out there can accept this. It would take the same thing to convince me that this is real that it would take to convince your landlord that he actually had received the money. Show me the damn evidence. Actual evidence. Not some guy claiming he's got 17,000 votes missing. Doesn't matter how many times he gets up there and screams that he saw election fraud. Show me the proof. We are in a day and age when quite literally everybody has one of these. And you notice that nifty little thing right there? That's a camera. Even better than that, it takes video. And you're telling me out of the hundreds of poll workers across the country in multiple states, in multiple counties in those states, and in multiple polling locations in those counties in those states. Nobody had a fucking cell phone? And that's just the workers. Let's forget about the fact that all of those workers had observers from both parties watching them. And they didn't have their cell phones with them? And that's before you get to the fact that you've got to coordinate this whole thing with a bunch of volunteer poll workers. It's not like all the poll workers are Democrats, guys. But even if you wanted to coordinate it, you can't find a single email. You can't find a single printout. You think with hundreds of people, if not thousands involved on this, that some guy somewhere that was volunteering his time for the Democratic Party or the Republican Party to go count ballots that normally works a, I don't know, normal middle-class job making $50,000 a year wouldn't have like cashed in on that email? I mean, that'd be worth quite a lot at this point, I would think. To Trump, to all his attorneys, to all the different news agencies that would pay you to have first access to it. And not one person out of all the people that would have to be involved on this, not one has sat there and thought, you know, I like Joe Biden and all, but shit, I could get me a new house and retire. So let's go through where this conspiracy is at now. So, from the state of Georgia.
A third analysis of presidential election results in Georgia upholds Joe Biden's win. An audit called on officials to inspect ballots to make sure their signatures match the ones the state had on file in Cobb County, which the president-elect won by 14%. The signature audit found the results to be 99.99% accurate. Only 2 ballots out of the more than 15,000 were found with questionable signatures.
I would also note for the record as well that during the course of the audit, there were no fraudulent absentee ballots identified during the process.
After Georgia was called for President-elect Biden, many Republicans called for a recount of votes in counties that voted blue. Election officials recounted by hand and by machine and came to the same conclusion.
Three audits in the state of Georgia alone. By hand and by machine. So that whole theory that Trump's been spreading about Dominion voting machines and Venezuela and Hugo Chavez and the Clintons all being in on this and being able to hack Dominion voting machines, and that if you put in 100 votes for Trump, then it would actually give, give him 75. And if you put in 100 votes for Biden, it would give him 125 because it would add in the 0.25 for the Trump stuff. Yeah, that shit would have shown up during a hand count. So unless you're going to add on that all the people that were involved in the hand count audit, run by the Republican governor and Republican Secretary of State of the state of Georgia, I guess they had to be in on it too. And again, it would have taken one guy who decided he wanted a new house and to retire to blow the lid off this whole thing. 3 separate audits. You got 2 votes. Not that we're saying are fraudulent, but where the signatures are questionable. You notice they didn't even say that they didn't match. They were questionable. 99.9% accuracy. You got 2 votes right there. And you wonder why we don't believe you. Why we think you're full of shit. Why we think Trump is full of shit. Because we don't. People on the left, hell, conservatives, hell, anybody that appreciates the value of evidence, we can't understand why you believe this. To us, it sounds like moon landing hoaxes or alien abductions or flat earth conspiracy theories. It sounded like that before we did the audits. But now that we've done the audits, it's even worse. So let's see, now that we've done 3 hand count audits, where the conspiracy has moved from here. Now this guy, I'm going to apologize for. You can see the comments from chat there. I'm going to apologize for the quality of this video. It was his live stream. He was called in, I kid you not, to testify before the Georgia Senate about how he was able to hack voting systems in the state of Georgia. This is Mr. Pulitzer. This was given to me as proof of election fraud in Georgia. So we're going to run through it. I broke it into 3 separate pieces so that we can address it as we go and why it's not. Again, I apologize for the quality.
But I'm sharing with you right now another polling place. I'm going to show you a polling place where people are actually standing as we speak. You'll be able to see the time date stamp on it, so you know exactly what it is. But as we speak, supposedly these polling stations, meaning where you go cast your vote, are not supposed to have open Wi-Fi devices, and you certainly don't want a Wi-Fi device near the polling machine. You don't certainly want a Wi-Fi device near the polling machines that is exposed on a hidden network that you're not supposed to see. But of course, if you have the right tools to understand to see hidden networks, not only do you see a device open on the hidden network right where the machines are, but actually that device communicating in a 2-way protocol back and forth directly to China. So I'm going to show you that. I'm going to show you the pictures. It is what it is. All of these places across Georgia are currently going under this level of forensic examination. This is not something that should occur. This is something our team has proven over and over and over. You've actually heard the reports of it happening through the thermostats and everything else, confirming that it's going overseas in a 2-way dialogue. I'm going to show you one that is going right now. And this is a place where people are standing to cast their votes. And when you expect to cast your votes and there's a legal system that says that these ballots must have a secure transmission, that they only should be available on a USB stick from that machine over to the tally machine that counts them, you have to ask yourself, why in the hell is there open Wi-Fi? And more than why in the hell is there open Wi-Fi? Why in the hell is it on a hidden network? And not only is it on a hidden network, why in the hell is it going through a current 2-way dialogue on China, or with China, I should say, not on China?
Now, I apologize again for the phone going off. It's not me. It's his phone. Okay? This is the IT expert that exposed voter fraud in Georgia. Now, he said a lot of things very quickly. Boils down to 2 things. At the polling locations in Georgia, some of them, he's managed to find, I think, 2 or 3 so far, the building has Wi-Fi. Not that the polling machines are connected to the building's Wi-Fi. Not that he could remote in and connect to a polling machine. No, the building itself has Wi-Fi. This is not shocking to me. One of the polling locations in Georgia was the State Farm Arena. A State Farm Arena is probably going to give their customers free Wi-Fi, and then they will have Wi-Fi to run other shit throughout the building that the employees might use, like thermostats or like TVs, maybe some phones, maybe some headsets. I don't know. I don't care. If the ballots, which as you heard him say, are supposed to go on a USB stick, and the polling machines aren't connected to the Wi-Fi, then I don't care. You haven't shown that you can hack a vote, and that's not what he's claiming to show. He just mixes in ballots and polling machines and all that kind of shit to try and get your attention and to scare you if you already believe this stuff. But if you actually listen to what he says he managed to connect in to a Wi-Fi network that wasn't public, so it wasn't the free Wi-Fi they give you, it was the employee Wi-Fi or the system's Wi-Fi for the building. He managed to find that, and he managed to connect to a device in that building. Not a polling machine, not anything with polling data. Never makes those claims. But he's going to talk about ballots, and he's going to talk about polling machines. But that's not what he's saying. He's not even saying he found a polling machine that was connected to the Wi-Fi in those buildings. No. He found a device that was connected to the polling. Or excuse me, a device that was connected to the Wi-Fi in those buildings. Whoop-de-doo. You can come to my house and find devices that are connected to my Wi-Fi. Holy shit. Am I in on the conspiracy to move around ballots and election fraud and all this stuff? No. If I had a box of ballots right here or a box of raffle tickets, the fact that I have a Wi-Fi network in my house doesn't mean that I'm influencing the raffle. So he's not claiming that, but he's sure going to try to scare you. We're going to drop in the words China and all this shit. So anyway, let's go back to Mr. Pulitzer. Because again, this was sent to me as the most recent proof of election fraud. Here's your proof. You ready?
And then I'm going to show you absolute proof. Here's the device. And I'm going to show you absolute proof. Here's where it's from China, and here's what it is, because you need to know how these things happen. And you need to know how this thing was orchestrating. And I can tell you that after this report, something else we're working on, there may be two more incredibly breaking reports to do it. I like to be a little more transparent here on Facebook, because frankly, you can broadcast longer than on Twitter. Twitter's not even letting me broadcast, by the way. I should even be able to get in Periscope and broadcast live to Twitter. Twitter is not even allowing me to do that because too many people are looking at these tweets and trending. But these buildings are supposed to be highly secure. And they're not. You shouldn't be able to walk in and be casting a vote and have not only a Wi-Fi opening there, but a Wi-Fi opening that is monitoring and sending stuff back and forth overseas. That should not occur. Let me show you some photos here, folks. Bear with me. Okay, I think this just goes on an overlay. If I seem a little slow here for a minute, let me see. Ready? Here we go. There is the device, literally, you're looking at it. This isn't the real time, this is the vendor. It's, you know, our great American patriot, Hushu, our American patriot, as it goes over to Zu Gajo Shinda Hui, right? This is how it's communicating. This is it in real time. Take a screenshot, guys.
It's a fucking
Take
TV.
a screenshot. I know there's going to be attackers that say that's not really true. These things talk by smoke signals, and it's crap, and it's poo-poo, and it's hoo-poo, and whatever. But that's the way it goes. And of course, if you saw me yesterday in the Senate, you know, actually what I said is we had access. And then, of course, the news breaks that we hacked during the real time, and people are now calling for my arrest in Georgia for quote unquote hacking the system.
You didn't hack.
You got to understand there's ethical hacking and legal chain of custody hacking, and there's bad hacking. And I can absolutely guarantee you no bad hacking went on.
He connected to a television. Again, not a polling machine. He hasn't even shown that the polling machines were connected to the Wi-Fi he connected to. You should, according to him, you should not be able to walk into a building and cast a vote if the building has Wi-Fi. That's what he said. Not that you shouldn't be able to walk in and cast a vote if the voting machine is connected to the Wi-Fi. No, he didn't say that. You shouldn't be able to walk into a building that has Wi-Fi and cast a ballot. Pretend for a minute, because these machines don't connect to the Wi-Fi. The voting machines don't. Pretend for a minute that we went back to the old school way in the 1800s of filling it out with a little sheet of paper and then hand looking at it to calculate your vote. What he said was that you shouldn't be able to go in and fill out your vote with a pencil and a sheet of paper if the building has Wi-Fi, because it's literally no different. If the little touchscreen thing you use isn't connected to the Wi-Fi and can't connect to the Wi-Fi, and it prints out a paper ballot so that you can look at it and make sure that your vote matches what you touched on the screen? Because there's a Wi-Fi TV in that building, according to this Yahoo, you shouldn't be able to cast a vote in that building because that building has Wi-Fi. This is ridiculous. This isn't proof of voter fraud. It's not even close. This doesn't even prove that you could change one vote. Not one. Much less show that one vote was actually fucking changed. If you want to prove massive, multi-state, nationwide conspiracy to steal the presidential election from Donald Trump, you got to at least start by showing that you could change one vote and showing that you can connect to a TV. Call me crazy, doesn't do that. I have a Amazon Roku connected to the TV downstairs in my living room. I didn't hack the election. Let's finish up with this Yahoo.
Here it is. But I think that people, you should be afraid. You absolutely should be afraid, because if you see testimonial that there's no Wi-Fi there, can't be Wi-Fi there, shouldn't be Wi-Fi there. Why is there Wi-Fi there? And don't get caught into the smoke and mirrors that these things don't have Wi-Fi connections. It actually, all that data through many different ways can be go to. You know, you can actually blow up a power plant or a nuclear facility through that little bitty thermostat if you know how to get to that thermostat and take over controls of the systems where these things are. This is alarming. Will your vote ever matter again? And I call it exactly like it is. The bottom line here is, even if I was to find out that the Republicans were doing this, I would bust it out because it would deserve being busted out. This should not be done. And so this is not a party hack type thing. This is just about being an American and preserving our republic and making sure your vote counts, because it does not matter what side of the aisle you're on. You would be screaming. So please don't think this is a Democrat versus Republican thing. That is so over and old. It's not.
There we agree. It's not a Democrat or a Republican thing. It's a people who can understand what's evidence and people who can't understand what's evidence thing. It's a people who can see through bullshit and a people who can't see through bullshit thing. Connecting to a TV has nothing to do with voting. And you notice in the middle of that, he backed off real quick when he almost said that you were going to, be able to change votes and all this kind of stuff. No, he backed off that real fast. Started talking about a thermostat and being able to blow up a nuclear power plant if the systems are connected to it. Well, that may be true. I have no idea. But the key there is if the systems, the other systems, not just the thermostat, are all connected on the same Wi-Fi network. And you notice, again, he never said that the ballots and the polling booths were connected to that same Wi-Fi network or that they were connected to any Wi-Fi network. But this is the new proof circling around in conservative sphere that I got introduced to a few days ago. Now, if you're somewhat skeptical of the whole election fraud bit, like I am, how in the hell is some video talking about a building having Wi-Fi that doesn't show me that he could change one vote, that doesn't show me that one vote was even changed, remotely going to convince me that election fraud actually freaking occurred? It's not. And my friend keeps complaining. I send you all this evidence. None of it's ever good enough. There's never enough. That's because this is not evidence of voter fraud at all, remotely. So this is a big fat zero. And if you send me another big fat zero and another big fat zero, it doesn't matter if you send me 1,500 zeros. It doesn't matter if you send me 1,000,000 zeros. Doesn't matter if you send me 10 million zeros. It's never going to equal 1. It's not about how many people say that they think or say that they feel or say that they just can't imagine how it would have happened without voter fraud occurring. None of those things are evidence. None of them. So it doesn't matter how many of these types of videos you send me, personally or to the channel, because it's not evidence. And sending it to me 10,000 times isn't going to help. And sending me 10,000 links like this, whether it's this Yahoo talking out of his butt 10,000 times, or whether it's 10,000 Yahoos talking out of their butt, one time each. That's not evidence. It's another guy making a claim. And this guy didn't even claim that he could commit election fraud. So this is even worse than the guy that says, I saw election fraud happen. Her. Come on, guys. You don't want to go protest and listen to conservative congressmen calling for violence in the streets now, which we'll get to right after the break. And you can't even provide any evidence of this stuff? Any? You can do better. And America deserves better. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back, everybody. And now we're going to get to why these ridiculous claims are as important as they are. Because normally, in a normal, sane political environment, I wouldn't have to bother addressing this kind of batshit craziness. But we're not dealing with that right now. So we're still contesting the Electoral College.
Good evening. A group of 11 current and incoming Republican senators today announced plans to reject Electoral College results in certain states won by President-elect Joe Biden. This despite no credible evidence of widespread fraud in the election. Lawsuits claiming the election was stolen have been consistently rejected by the courts, including the U.S. Supreme Court, twice. The last stand is set for Wednesday, when Congress meets to certify Mr. Biden's victory. Weijia Jiang is at the White House and leads us off tonight.
Senator Ted Cruz is leading an effort to challenge President-elect Joe Biden's victory. Cruz is among 11 Republican senators who announced today they will object to the certification of the election results unless a 10-day emergency audit is completed by an electoral commission to look at election returns in disputed states.
We knew that there needed to be something that was done.
Earlier this week, Missouri Senator Josh Hawley said he plans to contest the outcome too. 4 of the lawmakers were just elected on the same ballot as President Trump, but they are not questioning the legitimacy of their victories.
And that kind of spells it right there. 4 of them in the same election. But hey, since I won, it's legit. But since my guy lost, his, even though it's on the same damn ballot, his had to be fraud. I've said it before on this show. I served in the military. I took an oath to preserve and protect this country and its Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. If fraud happened, show me the damn evidence, prove your case, show me the rent money, put it in my account so I can count it, and I'll be right there with you guys. But this is dangerous, dangerous political theater. And that's all it is at this point. It's smoke without the mirrors. It's not even smoke. It's people telling you there's smoke, but when you look around, you don't see any. And now we've got 11 Republican senators going along with this nonsense, 4 of which were just elected, and at least one of which we know has presidential ambitions. Because Ted Cruz ran last time and lost to Trump. So he's got to court those Trump votes. If it undermines democracy, if it undermines your belief in voting, oh well. If it leads to riots and violence, oh well. He's got to look out for number 1. You want to change my mind? Show me the damned evidence. This is not that hard, guys. Like I was telling somebody this week, if I told you that your house was on fire, and you went home and you didn't see any fire, and you didn't smell any smoke, and you didn't see half your building missing, you're not going to believe me. You're not even calling the fire department. You're certainly not filing a fire insurance claim yet. But this is worse than that. We've done 3 audits in Georgia. At county levels, at state levels. It's been heard at courts all the way up to the Supreme Court. So not only have we called the fire department, not only have we called the fire insurance company, we've called every national agency we could think of. And they've all said the same thing. I know your buddy's telling you there's evidence of fraud. I know your buddy's telling you your house is on fire. But there ain't shit here, guys. And before we pour water all over your damn house that's not on fire from all intents and purposes and all the evidence shows, you're going to need to prove your house is on fire. If you want me to suspend a constitutionally mandated election, you're going to need to prove that there was fraud. And I don't care if 20 people or 1,000 people come to me and all my neighbors come and say, hey man, Bob said your house is on fire. I feel like your house is on fire. That's not the same thing as smoke. That's not the same thing as physically seeing a fire. That's not as good as the fire department coming out and saying, hey, your house ain't on fire, brother. That's not as good as the insurance adjuster coming out and saying, hey, your house wasn't on fire. We're not cutting you a check. That's not as good as the FBI coming out and saying, hey, man, there was no arson here. What in the hell are you talking about? Who gives a shit what your neighbor says? Your house is fine. It's still fucking standing there. So where do we go from here? Republican Congressman Louis Gohmert.
Basically, in effect, the ruling would be that you got to go to the streets and be as violent as Antifa and BLM.
Well, let me ask you, Congressman Gohmert.
Our attorneys are preparing the appeal to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. There are some incredible judges on that court, and so we're very hopeful that they will say, you know what, if our courts are not going to be useful in this dispute, and the litigant here is not going to have standing, and the defendant's not the appropriate, and the jurisdiction is not there, then we have no business having courts. We're worthless.
So
and
do
I don't think they say that.
We're in uncharted territory here, Congressman Gohmert. A lot of people criticized you for putting this lawsuit forward for what you guys are doing. How's this going to turn out?
Well, it's the reason I believed in using the court system for the same reason that they were created under Article 3 of the Constitution, to resolve disputes. So you don't have to have riots and violence and what we've seen from the radical Democrats. So I still believe in that system. I still have hope in that system. There are people all over the country praying that people will get a backbone. And so, you know, as John Quincy Adams said, the work is ours, the results up to God. So we will keep laboring and working and trying to do everything we can to see that people come to the right conclusion. Because I'm telling you, Emerald, if they do not, it will mean the end of our republic, the end of this little experiment self-government.
We only have maybe 20 seconds. I want to ask you real quick. Can the president appoint anyone at the Department of Justice to investigate this, since no one at the DOJ, from what we've heard, is looking into this?
Yes. Very quickly, yes. All power in the Department of Justice comes from and through the president. So he has that power just like the Attorney General does. It comes from him, and he can use it.
Great, Congressman. Thank you so much for joining us. Very insightful.
Thank you.
Congressman Gohmert, whichever you prefer. I honestly don't care. He's a batshit loon. Calling for violence because the court decision didn't go his way. Twice. And he still has faith in the courts, but if it doesn't go his way, well, you know, the courts don't work, so you got to go to other means. Seriously? This is where we're at. This is what happens when you start feeding the crazy people and telling them that their belief without any evidence is just as good as your opinion, which is based on evidence. I can have a discussion, a debate with somebody who bases their opinion on evidence, who reaches conclusions based off reality. Because if I'm wrong, they can show me where I'm wrong. And if they're wrong, I can show them where they're wrong. And if a conclusion can't be reached yet, we can find a way to compromise because we can both see where the other one is coming from. I can't reach a compromise about whether or not Santa Claus is real. I don't care if my 5-year-old really believes it. I'm fine with patting him on the head, but he doesn't vote. And there's a reason for that. "11 senators, Republicans, of course, contesting an election now. Again, with no more evidence than we've seen during multiple episodes of this show. And a Republican congressman calling for political violence. I agree. He's right about one thing. If we're not careful, this is going to be the end of our republic. Because overturning an election just because you don't like it, or overturning a court case just because you don't like the decision, when you don't have any evidence to back up your opinion, yeah, that'll spell the death of our republic, all right? Now, this just came out today. From the Washington Post. This is Donald Trump talking to the Republican Secretary of State of the state of Georgia.
I switched from State Farm because of this site. They wanted me to pay $163 a month.
We have won this election in Georgia based on all of this. And there's nothing wrong with saying that, Brad. You know, I mean, having a correct, the people of Georgia are angry. And these numbers are going to be repeated on Monday night, along with others that we're going to have by that time, which are much more substantial even. And the people of Georgia are angry. The people of the country are angry. And there's nothing wrong with saying that, you know, that you've recalculated.
Well, Mr. President, the challenge that you have is the data you have is wrong.
Now, do you think it's possible that they shredded ballots in Fulton County? Because that's what the rumor is. And also that Dominion took out machines. That Dominion is really moving fast to get rid of their machinery. Do you know anything about that? Because that's illegal.
This is Ryan, Germany. No, Dominion has not moved any machinery out of Fulton County. We're having.
Well, but have they moved? Have they moved the inner parts of the machines and replaced them with other parts?
No.
You sure, Ryan?
I'm sure.
You should want to have an accurate election. And you're a Republican.
We believe that we do have an accurate election.
No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't have. Not even close. You're off by hundreds of thousands of votes. You know what they did, and you're not reporting it. That's a criminal offense, and you can't let that happen. That's a big risk to you and to Ryan. your lawyer. That's a big risk. But they are shredding ballots, in my opinion, based on what I've heard, and they are removing machinery, and they're moving it as fast as they can, both of which are criminal fines, and you can't let it happen, and you are letting it happen. You know, I mean, I'm notifying you that you're letting it happen. So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state. So tell me, Brad, what are we going to do? We won the election, and it's not fair to take it away from us like this. And it's going to be very costly in many ways. And I think you have to say that you're going to re-examine it, and you can re-examine it, but re-examine it with people that want to find answers, not people that don't want to find answers. For instance, I'm hearing Ryan, and he's probably, I'm sure, a great lawyer and everything, but he's making statements about those ballots that he doesn't know. But he's making them with such, he did make them with surety, but now I think he's less sure, because the answer is they all went to Biden. And that alone wins us the election by a lot. You know, so.
Mr. President, you have people that submit information, and we have our people that submit information, and then it comes before the court, and the court then has to make a determination. We have to stand by our numbers. We believe our numbers are right.
Well, under law, you're not allowed to give faulty election results, okay? You're not allowed to do that, and that's what you've done. This is a faulty election result. And honestly, this should go very fast. You should meet tomorrow, because you have a big election coming up, and because of what you've done to the president, you know, the people of Georgia know that this was a scam. And because of what you've done to the president, a lot of people aren't going out to vote. And a lot of Republicans are going to vote negative because they hate what you did to the president, okay? They hate it. And they're going to vote. And if you would be respected, really respected, if this thing could be straightened out before the election. You have a big election coming up on Tuesday.
That's a man fishing for the result that he wants. I don't know what else to say. You know, I've heard this, and I've heard that, and maybe this, and maybe that, and maybe you should recalculate it. Are they replacing the machines? How can you be sure? Are you sure? How do you know? You're a Republican. Not one shred of evidence to back his claim that the election was fraudulent. Not one. Couple of veiled threats. Republicans are going to lose power if you don't change it. The people of Georgia are angry. They're mad. The people of the country are angry. They're mad. Well, maybe if you'd quit fucking lying to them, they wouldn't be so angry and mad. And last but not least, which is why this is all concerning, where this could be heading for January the 6th.
Basically, in effect, the ruling would...
And even though the U.S. military itself is never going to play those reindeer games, no matter what he tweets. With all this talk about martial law, the president is effectively signaling to his devotees that he thinks that would be a cool idea and that might fix things for him. So if any of his devotees have ideas for how they could do something extreme enough that might create a plausible pretext for really putting the military in the streets, well, the president is now signaling to all of them that that would be handy to him. That might help him. as the president continues to plot with House Republicans to sabotage the counting of the electoral votes in Washington on January 6th. The president is now telling his supporters that he also wants them in the streets in Washington on January 6th, saying on Twitter, quote, "Be there, will be wild." Here's the headline in the Washington Post today. Trump supporters plan D.C. rally on day Congress certifies election results. Quote, "Conversations about the gathering have taken off on chat forums used by far-right groups. The Proud Boys, members of armed right-wing groups, conspiracy theorists, white supremacists have all pledged to attend on January 6th. Several online posts appear to show far-right demonstrators workshopping ways to smuggle guns into D.C., where carrying without a permit is prohibited and guns are banned at all protests. Other posts include talk of violence. On the event website, a flyer for the demonstration says the president is calling on us to come back to Washington on January 6th for a big protest. Be there. Will be wild. Will be wild. That's what he wants. The president threw down 20 pardons and commutations last night, another 26 pardons late tonight. He has left Washington. Nobody knows, literally, if he is coming back. He is telling his followers to be in the streets when he and his co-conspirators try to sabotage the Electoral College vote count. He wants supporters in the streets outside the Capitol while they are trying to pull off their sabotage inside the Capitol at the same time. He has maybe jeopardized any relief for COVID at all. And he has blocked funding for the U.S. military. And it's just Wednesday. He's got 28 more days to wreak this kind of mayhem. Somewhere in the world, as we speak, America's most devoted enemies are watching. And they are really, really, really enjoying what they are seeing.
Hitler was elected once in Nazi Germany. That didn't make him the dictator. That didn't give him absolute power. What gave him absolute power was when their version of a Congress, called the Reichstag, passed what was called the Enabling Act, and basically said he could rule by decree. The way that was pulled off was that he pulled a bunch of his thugs, his paramilitary guys, called the brown shirts back then, to protest inside and outside the German Congress, the German Reichstag, while they were voting on the Enabling Act. The parallels are chilling. Now, if you want to go peacefully protest, that's your right. I stand by it. Be well aware that you're going to be standing next to Proud Boys who advocate for political violence, who I've shown on this show before, the founder, Gavin McInnes, saying that you have to commit an act of violence to move up within the group. You're going to be protesting with neo-Nazis like Richard Spencer, the same guys that were at Charlottesville in 2016, chanting blood and soil and Jews will not replace us. You're going to be protesting with the Boogaloo Boys, so named because they want Civil War II electric boogaloo. Yeah, you can't make this shit up. This is who you're going to stand next to protest, wanting the same thing, to overturn an election that you don't have any evidence was fraudulent, to overthrow our republic. And if you want to peacefully protest, do your thing. The minute you cross into violence, the minute you try to alter and overthrow this republic, everybody who ever swore an oath in the military and everybody who currently serves is obligated to stand by that oath. Protest all you want. do not cross that line.